Hello and welcome to my review for the debut album from Utaha named Utauyouni Hogarakani, which means as if singing in a cheerful way, or cheerfully sort of singing, or kind of hard to translate, but I think you get it. So as I mentioned, this is the debut album from the artist Utaha, who is also the lead singer of the band Wednesday Campanella. So I have reviewed the 3 most recent albums from that band, and I will have links to them if you're so interested here, and here. If I can figure that out, I think I can. Without spoiling those videos too much, I've pretty much only had really good things to say about each of those projects. Originally, Utaha was just a model, and then she won an audition to be the new lead singer of Wednesday Campanella, and has been their lead singer since, I believe, 2021. So far, in my opinion, Utaha is more so known for her kind of hyperpop and rap musical stylings. So with this album having a much larger focus on rock music is generally something kind of new for her. And because each of the songs on this album is just kind of all over the place, I would like to take this review song by song just because you can't really lump anything into any very hand-picked category. It's all over the place. So with that said, the first song is called My Body Is Cute. It's got noticeably less pitch correction than her Wednesday Campanella work, which isn't too surprising since that kind of plays into their whole electronic sound for their own music. So in contrast, this song actually has a very soft rock focus, and in a weird way, it kind of reminds me of the Friends opening song from the show. So I don't know if that's intentional or just kind of how she woke up and was feeling, but I thought that was a weird kind of connection there. The instrumental also features some steel drums, which honestly I always kind of love. I think they're very fun, so I really like hearing them here. And generally, I just think Utaha sounds really good here. I also kind of like the whole message of the song too. So to kind of summarize, the whole message is essentially Utaha saying, you can be yourself, or you can change. And then either option is like fine and totally justifiable so long as that's what you want to do. And I like that a lot because I feel like when you hear that, normally someone takes a side. How, like you should either be yourself or how you should try to kind of engage with others and kind of blend into the crowd, and how that's not always the worst thing ever. But here she's kind of taking that very centrist stance in that either option's fine, as long as it's what you want to do. And so in that way, she's kind of almost talking to herself, which she does a lot on this album, and I will mention later on as well. The second song on this is called Ningen Lover, and Ningen means like human or person, but just kind of human in general. So when I heard this song for the first time and it started, and I was just kind of like, what kind of song is this going to be? It starts off kind of nebulously, and it could really go in any direction. Imagine my surprise when it turned into a ska song. As someone who likes ska, I wouldn't say I love it. I'm not listening to ska 24/7, but I do have Turn the Radio Off by Real Big Fish on CD. So I'm something of a fan, and if you want to talk about mustard plug, I am also here for that too. So with this being a ska song, I was like, okay, she's kind of cooking here. I really like this song a lot. And it also reminds me of a song that possibly the Japanese band Shishamo could have made as well. It's kind of in their whole wheelhouse, it seems like to me. I will say though, the melody isn't really winning me over on this one. It's cool, but it's kind of got this like weird stiltedness to it that kind of takes me out of enjoying the song as much as I could. I feel like this song's just kind of using ska maybe as an aesthetic and not so much the actual typical ska writing composition formula. To be more specific, I think it's because the melody that she's singing isn't really a good fit for the instrumental melody, and it just kind of results in this kind of chaos that I just don't think blends well. I really like her singing track and I really like the instrumental track. I just don't think they really fit, So with that, let's talk about the third song, which is called Magic Hour. I do like the very twangy guitar on here. I think it really suits the mood of the song, and I do like it where it's positioned on the album too. However, I will say it's not really doing anything for me here. It's not a bad song, but it's just kind of flat, which I find is kind of a problem with multiple songs on this album too. Where every song does more or less have its own identity, there are some that just don't have the energy or kind of that typical Utaha flavor. There's just some songs on here that I just don't really ever see myself getting into. So the next song is called Twilight Tohiko, and in English this song would effectively be called Twilight Elopement. Again, not really feeling this one. I feel like the chorus is pretty poor. I also think that the singing take that they ultimately used for the final version of this song is just kind of generally weak, and I think she could have done a lot better. Maybe that's the point. I don't think she sang very well on this song. I will say though, I do actually really like the instrumental here. I just think that this is another song where her voice just isn't really fitting it though. One thing I do want to compliment her on though is that her English pronunciation is really good on this song and is kind of like that for most of her discography, so good for her. I know that's something that's really hard for Japanese people, so for her to have this good of pronunciation is a really impressive, so good for her. So the next song is called Merry-Go-Round, and this one's fun. It has some more edge than the other songs on this album, which is a style that I do actually think fits her very well. I'm not particularly impressed here either, kind of like the last two songs, though I will say I think generally it's a step in the right direction for her sound. I think maybe what takes me out of it the most are there's these like sirens in the song, which I don't mind sirens in songs. I like them every once in a while, maybe more so in electronic ones, but on this kind of more rock-oriented song, I don't know why these are here, and they really just kind of ruin the song for me. I'm just not a fan. Maybe you'll like it, but me not so much. So the song after that is called Teenager. I think the song actually has a very interesting instrumental. It kind of starts off with this almost digitalized harpsichord MIDI sound. I think that's super fun. I think that's cool. In a weird way, I feel like this sounds like almost a watered down version of a King Gnu song, where it's got that very wild instrumental to it that's all over the place, but somehow it all just kind of comes together really well. And this is another song where she's almost talking to her younger self and trying to provide her life lessons. So the next song after that is called Atogaki, which sort of means afterward, or would kind of be the English version of like how we would have PS at the end of a letter. So one thing I like about this song is that it's got way more energy, way more edge. I think she's so back, and this is for sure one of the highlights of the album for me too. I do really like how she's going for this very punk vibe. I just think she has a real knack for it. And there's something about this song that to me is very reminiscent of another Japanese rock band, but I cannot for the life of me place it. I simply can't. So if you listen to this song and you think you know what it is, leave a comment. Let's get that engagement up, but also let me know, because it's on like the tip of my tongue. I can feel it, but I just can't place it. And I think it's someone popular too, like a very massive Japanese rock band, but I just can't for the life of me stick something to it. I just simply can't. So please let me know. So the final song is called Deny. And I think this is another contender for my favorite song on the album. I think ultimately this is the one song that really works well for her singing style, her songwriting style, the instrumentals that she's kind of used to singing over. I think this song works incredibly well for this solo debut album. Here she sounds fantastic, and like I said, I just love that instrumentation on here. It's so cool, it's so interesting. I love every aspect of the songwriting here. I think it's so cool. So with that said, this song kind of goes over how she's not ready to face the world and isn't really wanting to feel that way anymore, and she wants to evolve and like mature as a person because of that. So yeah, I think this is another very nice sentimental moment from her songwriting wise, and I really hope she sticks to writing more songs like this in the future, because she just sounds fantastic on songs like this. Hats off to her here. That's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in the song by song. So let's talk about what I really liked. For one, I really like the album cover. So on Twitter, Utaha had actually said that this cover is a recreation of a photo that she took of herself when she was really young. I just think this album is like oozing with sort of sentimentality. So for her to incorporate that into the cover, I think is really an interesting choice too that I really like. One of the things I want to give her props for is that she is making music on this album that is very unlike her work with Wednesday Campanella. She's really outside of her comfort zone here, where she's not quite making pop electronic hits. It's more like every song is from a version of rock from the past 40 years. Some are ska, some are almost shoegazy, some are punk, and I feel like some could maybe even be considered like 90s Britpop, maybe. I just really like how she said, I want to make a rock album, but I want every song to really stand out and be its own thing. So because of that, I do find the album to kind of be all over the place. The pacing isn't fantastic. However, I do really like that she was very committed to making each song kind of its own thing. So yeah, those are my compliments. Now to talk about what I'm not really a fan of, and that is the mixing isn't all that great. Everything just kind of sounds flat and at the same level. It's not bad, but it makes the songs kind of less interesting because you don't really have any standout instrumental. I did mention that one harpsichord sound, but that's really only because it sounded so unlike anything that I've heard as of late. So that really stood out to me as kind of this musical moment. Aside from that, everything is just mixed at the same level and just blends together, and While I do like the song My Body Is Cute, it really just sounds like they tried to bury her so as to not be like too loud, but then it just made everything else flat. And that's really my main criticism for the album. The mixing isn't very good and everything is flat. And I've listened to this album about 10 times, maybe 15, in preparation for this video. And while yes, at some points I did listen to it on my AirPods and in the car and coming from my Mac laptop. And when I used my very nice stereo headphones, it sounded much better. But at the same time, an album should not only sound good in one scenario with one particular audio setup, it should at the very least sound pretty good everywhere, not pretty good in only one place, you know? Because not everyone is going to be in their car with stereo headphones on a walk with stereo headphones, at the zoo with stereo, like, huh? No, And frankly, I think I would like this album a lot more if there were more standout mixes and if they just fixed it considerably, because I just don't really like it in its current state, to be honest with you. Some other very minor complaints would be that I wish more of the album was like the song Deny. Like I said, I love that song. I think it's super unique and it really fits her whole aesthetic, but there's only one song like that on this whole album, so unfortunate. So kind of like I mentioned earlier, I feel like this album is an album for her. It's not so much an album for the general populace. I think that's super cool. I think that's super valid. I'm happy for her. But for that reason, this album just isn't really for me. I can really empathize with her wanting to provide lessons for young people that she's had to kind of learn along the way. But that's not where I'm at in my life. Well, I do empathize with a lot of it. It's not what I need to hear right now, but I think it is nice that other people probably need to. So nice. And so for that reason, I think I would rate this a 6 out of 10. There could definitely be lots of improvements to the mix, but generally, I like her songwriting here. Her choices for instrumentals were pretty interesting. I think the production is good overall. I think the songwriting's good overall, but nothing really wowed me. I like Deny. I like Merry Go Round. I like Ningen Lover, but there's not enough punch in really any of those to make me go, wow, I'm going to be listening to this all the time. I think my plan is to kind of leave this album in 2024, and whenever she comes out with her second album, I hope it's improved, because I know I'll be there to listen to it, and I look forward to listening to it. And I truly love her work with Wednesday Campanella, so I know she is capable of very great things. I just hope that those things show up on her second album. That's my review. Thank you for watching. Like I said, if you haven't watched those other Wednesday Campanella videos, I think you should. And I think those are albums you should definitely listen to, because Utaha is a fantastic front woman. So check them out. Thank you for watching, and have a good rest of your day.